senior, and I went to Black River, but I did not graduate from here. I graduated last year with my grandson, Chris Valenti, and I got my diploma. And let's see, is that what you want, just the name, or you?
My name is Ferris Kelso Harris, and I graduated in 1941. And I had Mr. Dorsey for general math.
My name is Margaret Tmisto, and I graduated in 1940, and I also had Mr. Dorsey for math.
My name is Dolores Benham. I graduated from BRA in 1936.
My name is Bill Jarvie. I graduated in 1942. And I took algebra from Mr. Pop Dorsey.
Do you guys have any stories that he's said before in class, or that you've heard about him?
Oh, what? You want me to start, or?
Yeah.
I knew Pop Dorsey in 1923. I was born in 1918. I lived next to the ball field, was known as the Trestle House now. And I used to go over there and play. And I was some of the some of the greatest athletes that ever graduated from here are people that I knew personally. And Pop Dorsey used to have me and Mrs. Harris's husband several times. We used to give the signals. He would give the signal, whatever, the batter would be up. And that wasn't the signal. It would be John Harris or myself or even another person. Actually, that would be the signal. And one time I remember, I don't remember the person's name, but it's a long time ago, but I was so happened that he gave me a signal for the guy to bunt, and I gave the guy the signal to bunt, and he hit a home run. There were two guys on base, and when he come across the home plate, Pop Dorsey was right there, and I won't say a word what he did, but you can imagine. He gave him a good kick. He said, I say when they give a signal to bunt, you bunt. He says, well, I got a home run, and we got 3 runs. I don't care. When I say bunt, you bunt. And that was the kind of a person that he was. He was probably the kindest person in the world. I think he probably did more for kids than any man alive and ever in Ludlow, I think. And he was a father to a lot of kids from all over the area, Andover, Mount Holly. There was, I'm trying to think of his name. He's a professor out in California now.
Wayne O'Swin.
Huh?
Wayne O'Swin?
That's the guy, yeah. And he lived with Pop Dorsey. Pop Dorsey had kids live with him all the time that he was alive. They'd come to school here from outlying towns, and he would put them up and feed them and everything else. Even buy them clothes and all that sort of thing. He gave his whole life for kids. And I think he probably went to the vineyard of the poorhouse when he passed away, but he had so many kids, actually, that they took good care of him. He even bought him a brand new car, the alumni did. And that, so that, I don't think there's probably anybody that can say that. I guess he's more like a father than a teacher. And I remember going to school when I was in the, I think it was, I had him first in the 7th or 8th grade, and he come walking in the class, and he said good morning. We say good morning, Mr. Dorsey, and he'd right off and say 5 and 5 is, and add 5 to subtract 2, multiply by 5, and he'd call on you. What's the answer? That's it.
I did math.
Yes. And I don't think probably we're probably the luckiest people on earth to know such a person.
Is any of these people in this picture that you know?
Ring a bell
Because we've got other baseball pictures of the TMZ coach.
No, I don't. I had all kinds of stuff, but I'm so happy that was thrown away by
I know a
mistake.
lot of these. There's Dick Joyce, Richard Keating, Bill Ball, Farmer Boy. There's a Cross, I don't know his first name. Sawyer, Mr. Dorsey.
Yeah, I should have put my glasses in.
Those were really.
No, yeah.
Nobody could show
I can
them.
tell you another story that was a good one. I used to catch, and Jim Hastings was the pitcher, and there was 3 Hastings. Jim Hastings, Paul Hastings, and Ray Hastings. Jim Hastings was the fastest pitcher in the history of Black River Academy. And I was about, I think, 8 years old, and he let me catch, and I'd go out over backwards, and because the ball was so fast. So one day I was catching there for a while, and I come to the bench, and my hand was like that. And there was a man by the name of Rusty Fryer. His father owned the Friars Meat Market, where the rental place is by the stoplight. And he sent him down to his father to get a piece of beefsteak to put into the catcher's mitt. Because in those days, the catcher's mitt didn't have hardly any padding. So he bought that piece of beefsteak and put it in there. My mother says to me, "That's getting so it stinks, you gotta get rid of it." I said, "Oh no, I'm gonna keep that." Yeah, but after a while, I bought another one, and it really didn't work in those days. That is the story I remember about that. And another thing, where the shoddy mill is, in the days that we would have they'd have the home game, there was guys who would go to work with a glove. And if you went to the ball field today, you get on this end here, that's where the home base was. And there'd be guys up in the shoddy mill, have the windows up and their glove out there, and a lot of guys would be hitting a home run right into that shoddy mill, and the guys would be catching the ball. Big thing if you got a ball. I remember one time Frank Kalino hit a home run, and I'm trying to think of the guy that caught it, and he was running around trying to sell it get some boo. And I can't remember the guy's name now. They would go to work with a glove when they had the home team, home games.
Ferris, you must know some of these stories.
Not too many, but I remember if you didn't, in math, when you were solving problems, if you didn't state whether it was a square rod or yards or something, he'd always say, "Well, is it post holes or donuts?" And, he was a good teacher. Okay.
I remember he was head of the choir in the United Church. And I remember that he campaigned for Judge Moore for governor, and he would take a bunch of kids around, and we'd go to the different towns of Vermont, and then he would take out his checkerboard, and he would campaign for Judge Moore for governor. And do you remember how to square a number ending in 5? Drop the 5, multiply the remaining number by the next number above it, and annex 25. Yeah, he taught us that. Do you have any?
I remember he was a good math teacher. I liked him as a teacher. I was terrible in math. I hated it and couldn't understand it. He's the only reason I got through, but I spent many a night after school because he was a perfectionist and you did learn. I remember that. I liked him very much. He loved kids. He was so great with especially the boys. Like Pesco said, he did a lot for all of the boys. And he couldn't tolerate some of the giggling girls. My sister said this morning she was telling me that she and another friend were walking through the hall and giggling. This was in high school too, and he didn't think much of that. He said, giggling girls and cackling hens are sure to come to no good end, and send them on their way.
Great.
You used to play checkers with him, didn't you, Bill?
I did, yes. And well, I wasn't a member of the checker club, but I played quite a few games. And he'd set up about 4 or 5 card tables with a checkerboard on each one. And he'd come over to one person, make a move, walk on to the next table. And we had, like I say, 5 or 6 tables going, and invariably he would win. You know, nobody could beat him at checkers. Got so that we just resigned to our fate, I guess.
Well, I don't know if any of you know, but I think it's here somewhere that Pop Dorsey, in I think it was 26, 27, the girls won the state championship in volleyball, and Coach Dorsey was the coach, and girls volleyball, and there was in those days they had 6 players, 3 could go over the line, and 3 had to stay back, and I remember they were in bloomers playing. That's how they played. And one other time that stands out real. In fact, I've got the man's daughter sent me the thing about it. Frank Kleino, his name was, and he was, in 1928, they won the state championship, I think in all 3 sports, if I remember right. I may be wrong about that, but I think it was all 3 sports. And there was a big piece in Rutland Herald that Proctor was going to kill Ludlow, because Ludlow had a winning season all season, and they were going to kill Ludlow. And but they were going to play here. Of course, they played in the town hall. That's where years ago where you played. So the man was named Frank Kleino, Bat Kleino, Ralph Emilio, Ed Dana, and Fred Coaster. And so they were playing away, and then all of a sudden, Pop Dorsey calls them all in. He says, okay, we're 2 guys on the floor. And so it was Rock Emilio and a guy by the name of Frank Klein, he just passed away here a while ago. 2 guys against Proctor. And the reason he did it was is because Proctor had this big piece in the Rutland Herald. They were going to knock out Ludlow, and of course Ludlow had a big winning season, and so he did it just on purpose to show him that there was no way that they were going to beat Ludlow. And the man that Frank Klein passed away, in his yearbook, they wrote that he was always disappointed when he didn't make a shot from mid-court.
When we went to school there, he was a great singer. He loved to sing. And our assemblies were mostly all sing-alongs. We knew all the songs in the Golden Songbook. And that's what we had for our assemblies. 40 minutes it was, wasn't it? Everybody knew the songs.
And to a different question, was he known for doing anything out of the ordinary?
Well, coaching the girls, volleyball team's kind of out of the ordinary, because he coached all the whole board.
Like Pascal said, that a lot of the students would stay with him in the wintertime. And I remember I went up there one time for some reason, and they'd been frying eggs on the top of the stove to eat. I thought, boy, that was really something. And one time my aunt sent me up to his house because her son didn't come home from the game. And I guess they left him up, they thought they left him up there. I don't know if it was Rutland or where, because we didn't have school buses. And Mr. Dorsey said, well, I'll have to go up and look for him. But in the meantime, he came home, so he didn't have to go.
Different one again. Do you think he had a good influence on people?
Definitely.
Definitely, he was a very dedicated teacher and a person. He did so much for the town. We need a teacher like him in these days.
He had discipline too.
Right.
Right.
He sure did.
Although I was telling Ferris, I remember him saying, nobody's ever cheated in his class. And he'd pass out the tests, and then he'd go out of the room, which was a big mistake.
What kind of person was he outside of school? Like, what kind of personality? Would he change from school personality to, like, outside school?
Whatever I saw, he was the same all the time. I never seen him any different. He always had a lot of fun, though. He was a person that always had a big laugh, and he was also a disciplinarian, but I mean, he also was full of fun, and like she was talking about singing and different things. He was I think, probably a special person, very special. Excellent. I can remember another thing that was rather odd. I was right here, right out in this yard here, and we had what they call tag football. And we were playing, and this one guy started calling names about wops and Polacks and things like that. And this one particular person, I was carrying the ball and supposed to be tagged, and he knocked me down, called me names, and I kind of wiped the dirt around with him, and so Pop Dorsey came over and he said, well, what happened here? And I didn't say nothing, but another guy that was there, and he says, well, they started calling Pat all kinds of names, this guy did. And, well, keep on fighting and don't stop. He says, he needs a good licking and smarten him up then. That's the kind of guy he was. And there was a lot of that in those days, actually.
Yeah.
Even, I think, probably Bill can remember about the Finns and the Polish and the Italians and that sort of thing. And that was, it was a common thing in school.
Yeah, that was the influx of the immigrants. A lot of the parents didn't speak English.
Well, like, how would he teach you, like, about math? Would he have like, what kind of methods?
He had his own method. He had to have a quick mind. That's how I got through my quick mind.
Well, he always had the answer for the things when he'd come in the room and start knocking out the numbers, he always had the answer. The right answer.
I got something to say. Wasn't he the teacher that would look at one person, say in the right corner or something, and then ask a question, and then he asked, say, Tom, and Tom would be in the opposite corner, you know, not even paying attention. He'd keep staring at the person he asked the question, but he actually said Tom, who was on the other side of the room, and it kept everybody right on their toes.
I think he had eyes in the back of his head. He had eyes in the back of his head.
Yes, absolutely.
Another question about in school. Was his class hard, or, like, difficult to pass, or, like, easy if you paid attention, you'd pass, or?
You paid attention or else.
Yeah. It was easy to pay attention. You did.
Oh, another thing that I'm getting some of my memory back. In 1924, I think it was, my grandfather became the a man was a cripple, and where the rental place is now was a big building. There was a hotel next to where the Dunkin' Donuts was. And my grandfather run the pool room for the man that he was in a wheelchair. And these Kalina boys and Rockers, and those guys that played sports, in those days, women were not allowed in the pool room. And you could not go in the pool room unless you were with your father. You had to be at least 12 years old. And I used to go there because I helped my grandfather rack up the balls and stuff. And that's where I got to know all these athletes, because in those days, that's where the athletes, that was like having a recreation center. That's where all the athletes went. And my grandfather only went to the 5th grade, right? No, of course, it was up to where Vincent Drive was at that time.
Waterville.
Yeah, and my grandfather went to the 5th grade, and a lot of these athletes were having trouble with math, and so my grandfather said, well, I'm going to learn how to do geometry and trigonometry. I can remember my mother saying, well, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. About a year's time, he did, and the man had just passed away. The last time I talked to him was right here in Ludlow, and he died out in,
Arizona.
same place that Clinton came from, Arkansas. And he said to me that if it wasn't for your grandfather, he said, I never would have passed. And he went on a scholarship to Northfield. And the last time that I talked to Pop Dorsey in person, and I was talking to him, in fact, my mother sent down a bunch of stuff from the restaurant, and I took it down to him. He said to me, he says, you know, that probably the best teacher in Ludlow wasn't me, it was your grandfather. I said, how come it was that way? He says, well, because your grandfather taught by example. And he says that these guys that wouldn't have passed math, because he says that he did half their homework. They thought they were fooling me, but he says they were doing the homework. But what he would make them do is they would be playing pool, and then he would figure out how to do whatever the lessons, whatever the lessons were. But he would not give it to them. He'd put it on another piece of paper, and then he'd talk to them and make them figure it out. Then he would help them. And then he would say, okay, tonight's your night to clean the floor or whatever. And that's, so he said, your grandfather taught by example. But he said, I didn't have that chance to do that in class as much as I should have. And he says that we learn more by example and doing than we do by books and other things. But he said books are very important. And I noticed that the 3 of the teachers this year got Teacher of the Year, and all three of them said that it was very important that children did things, and that way they could learn by example, by doing. So evidently it still works today.
What was your grandfather's name? Was it Fred?
Fred Nealon.
Fred Nealon.
Yeah.
I remember him.
Yeah.
What year was Mr. Dorsey born? Any idea?
What?
What year was Mr. Dorsey born?
He's got it.
I got somewhere in here.
Gee, he had a brother in Rutland who was an insurance manager, right? Yeah. Mhm. His brother had an insurance business in Rutland.
That's just a picture of
Remember, he
just
used
the alumni
to
picture.
invite us up. He had a cottage up to the lake, and he'd invite us girls up to clean his cottage when we get up there. He'd have all these dishes and wash.
I think it says right here, June 13th, 1872, February 12th, 1940.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
I went to see him in the hospital when he was sick before he died in Raleigh, he had a heart attack. not me alone, several people.
Did any of you go on any trips with him, like hunting or anything?
I don't think it was 100.
I went on the baseball trips, football trips, nothing. I used to go up to his cottage all the time. He had a cottage up to Lake Rescue.
After one of the floods, he took a bunch of us girls, and there was a lot of potholes in the road. He had one speed fast right over the top of the holes. So once in a while he did.
We have this picture, I don't think we have it with us, but he went on one hunting trip with the boys he came rescue, not that one, Lake Rescue, and his car fell off,
He drove it off or something?
his car fell off the side of into the lake. This picture of that, Danny, you remember that?
I don't remember that. You know, it could
Here's a
happen.
picture that my husband has.
Oh, that's the same picture right here.
Is it Danny?
Right here.
Oh,
You probably have this.
Or the alumni picture?
Yeah. Probably have it. And I got it crooked on the scale.
He used to take us on baseball trips to Cheston. I can remember the old road, the Proctorville Gulf, they called it. And there'd be 8, 10 kids in a Model A Ford. And he'd be coming up, and he couldn't make the hill. So he'd back down and turn around, then back up the hill. Because in those days, the gas was gravity fed to the motor. So that way, by backing up, it was gravity fed, of course.
We had a car that did that. It had to back up the hill.
Yeah.
little Model T.
Yeah.
Do you think he was an inspiring teacher?
One
No
of a
question
kind.
about that, I think.
One of a kind.
Would he make you want to go far in like as any kind of math? Like,
I remember he always wanted the kids to take the college course, just in case they went to college, so they'd have, algebra and Latin or whatever we had. Because sometimes kids wanted to go and they hadn't taken the right subjects.
One of the students from Belmont went to college in Florida, and he was teaching the professor in Florida what Pop Dorsey taught him.
Was in school, was he any was he in charge of like any other clubs in school?
besides math?
Like a chess club or something?
I don't think they played chess then. They played checkers.
Like an alumni? Like was he in charge of that or participating in it?
I think when he was the principal, he was about in charge of everything that happened here. I mean, even the girls' sports things, that he was pretty much involved in everything.
He had the young teams, probably like Little League.
Yeah.
He had teams right up through, then he'd have games for them.
Yep. Oh, they had when I was over to the other school at Benson's there, they had a 90-pound team. You couldn't, he'd weigh, if you weighed over 90 pounds, you couldn't play baseball. They had what they call a 90-pound team.
Did any of you bring any pictures of him or anything else?
It's just about the yearbook, maybe.
Same with my toothbrush too.
Yeah, it's just the same one that she had.
You and Rock.
It's the same picture she gave me.
How did you keep your banner so good?
Keep them on the shelf.
Why not? They're all falling apart.
No, he always took care of them. He used to get mad when I'd buy them, but he was always the one that was reading them. There's another one too that let's look at. That's the year I graduated.
Do you have any other stories of him or?
I have a lot in the back of my head, but I can't remember. Most of mine, of course, were in the avenue of sports, because I was very much involved in sport. In fact, he was telling me one time, you're going to be a professional catcher. And I used to call him and tell him that I want to be a professional catcher, but I never got that far.
I think Jim Hastings was, I think they tried to get him to go into the big leagues, Jim Hastings.
Oh, he did. Yeah, Jim Hastings, by the way, went down to, I remember that now, you mentioned it. Jim Hastings went down to the old Boston Braves, and he was, he got a year's salary, but I remember my father run a taxi for, well, I think about a year, and Pop Dorsey called him up and wanted to know if he would go up to the station and pick up Jim Hastings. He was the postmaster here in Ludlow for years. And my father said, well, what happened? Well, he says, he got homesick. He's coming home, he got homesick. My father said, what are you talking about? He's got a chance to play professional ball and he's homesick. He said, yeah, would you go pick him up when the train comes? My father said, sure, I will. And here a few years ago, I worked for about 10 years with helping different people. I worked for Community Action, and I used to take people to the doctors. And I used to take Jim Hastings to the doctor over across in Charlestown. There was a doctor's there, and he had a bad shoulder. And he'd tell me all kinds of stories about Pop Dorsey and him. Then I said to him one day, I said, I remember that Pop Dorsey talking to my father, calling him up and getting you at the station. Don't say that. He said, no, don't advertise that. I said, well, I remember. And he said, yeah. I said, that's right. He said, I was homesick.
I think he was a big influence in my husband going back to school. He quit at the end of his sophomore year because his family was sick and he went to work. And I think Mr. Dorsey had a lot of influence to get him to come back to school first. He took his last 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, another thing though, in those days, a lot of students could take 2 years in one. I mean, if you were actually right, I mean, you could take, say, your freshman year and your sophomore year in 1 year.
How'd they do that?
A lot of people they're passed away now, but I know quite a few people that did do that. Graduated in 2 years.
I think he was superintendent of the schools in Mount Holly area. I don't know. It was in Ludlow and all, because my mother was going to school, and he tried to get her to go on to high school, but her mother had died, but she wasn't able to. And at that time, there was nine grades. Yeah, instead of, I know there was 3 grades in high school and 3 grades in junior high. It was a long time ago.
He made a difference for the good in the lives of many of the kids in our school at that time.
Well, I can't think of any other questions right now, but like if you could say one thing, what would you say?
I think he was the best father I ever had. Now, I'm 83 years old, so I know a little about father.
Somebody you don't forget.
He was a good influence on a lot of the younger people. Need a few more of them around. Do they?
Do you have any questions?
No, you gotta do all right.
I think you youngsters will probably, when you get to be, get a few years, that you'll find that in life, there's a lot of times you'll have several fathers that will help you do things and change your whole life, actually. And your outlook on life. And he was that kind of a person.
How did he get the name Pop Dorsey?
Well, you didn't call that, tell him that in school.
I know what.
Afterwards, you get out of school, and everybody called him Pop Dorsey, because he was a pop to everybody. That's quite a compliment when a man is called a pop by all the kids around. And that's what he was. He was a pop to a lot of kids.
Do you have anything to say, George?
Just frightened.
Can't think of anything right now. What did, do you guys, any of you know where he lived during the time he went to his classes, stuff?
He lived in the sandwich house on Pleasant Street,
Yeah.
upstairs. Ted and Sandwich's house.
Do you have anything to say right now about him?
This is what he said.
Okay. Okay, thanks for coming to this interview, and you helped us a lot.